All right, dudes. Welcome. I don't know.
Another Friday night loss.
And look, first we'll go around the horn here. Jimmy Toscano, Sherrod Blakely. Always a pleasure to have him on. Bobby Manning's on hiatus. Bobby Manning's
on a one-game suspension for the wardrobe issue that we had with him last.
Bobby's in the penalty box. Yeah.
For that hat kerfuffle the other night.
The kerfuffle.
It didn't go over well.
Josue's at the Garden. He'll be joining us momentarily. And guys, I know this is frustrating. Like, there's obviously more things to talk about in a loss than in a win, but it's just getting exhausting to talk about this team right now. And I don't want to get into hyperbole right out of the gate, Sherrod, but I think this is going to go down as the Brad Stevens is staying game, because just setting the stage on this game, all of the buzz around Brad Stevens and IU, and if he's going or not, and he's like, no, I love you, and I love you, Boston, and I'm staying.
I'm a masshole.
And I want to be here forever, and I'm a masshole, and this is my home, and I never want to leave. And what do the players do? They come out and drop 45 points in the first half, standing around, no energy. You got Mike Gorman, the most mild-mannered person on the planet, like, these guys suck, Scal. They did that again, and what happens? Okay, great. Spirited run in the third quarter. We've seen that before. But when you play crap the whole first half, make it close for a little bit, your margin for error is 0. And what you got a team that can't open and a team that, oh my God, what a disaster closing that game was. I mean, just a nightmare game on what seemed like a total cupcake layup win opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, when you start looking at the fact of who you were playing, where you were playing. I mean, this was a place where, Jimmy was like a snot-nosed punk, more so than a snot-nosed punk he is today, the last time Sacramento won in Boston. It was like 13, 14 years ago, more than a decade ago. But to me, the most reality, straight no chaser moment for me was at the very end of the game, and you're down by 11. Kemba has the ball. And I know you don't have a chance to win, but just dribbling out the clock.
Dribbled it out.
I can't recall the last time I've seen a team that was getting their ass kicked like that at home to a bad team that didn't show some fight, even though the game was over. We get that, but damn, you're just gonna chalk up another turnover just for the sake of chalking up a turnover. It symbolized the way that they play. They pick and choose when they want to go hard, but they don't pick and choose that enough. I was texting with a scout who was watching the game, and he hold on, let me just make sure I got this right. He says,
I want to misquote him.
Right. He says that I don't understand this team. Is it they don't want to win, or do they not care about losing? Which matters more? And I couldn't respond to him because I have no idea. I don't know whether they hate losing or whether whether they enjoy winning more than they hate to lose. Because if they enjoy winning more, that's a problem. That's a big problem, because you should hate losing far more than you enjoy winning. And I don't feel that with this team.
We were talking about that too, and I want Jimmy's thoughts on it. We were texting about that earlier today, and I don't want to put it on individual players because I can't get in their head. But you see guys, look, you have a very telling, and I'm going to play this a little bit later, quote from Marcus Smart earlier in the game, or before this. Actually, I might see if I can dig that up. But effort has been questioned, a good bit here, and I'm going to play this Marcus bite here if I can get it. Is this it right here? I'm going to see if I can play this Marcus bite.
Boomer.
For
Boomer
us.
Alert.
A lot of things has happened in our lives personally, individually, where, it's hard to come here and, give that energy to somebody else when, in your own individual personal life, that energy is being drained or you don't really have it. We got to find a way to pick each other up when that energy is down from that standpoint, because it shows.
So that was the bite.
Right.
And we're bringing in Josue here. But yeah, we're going to comment on that one. Sherrod, your thoughts? Because again, it's interesting to me. They're not the only team dealing with stuff, though they've dealt with a lot. But that can't be an excuse. But when you're looking around, bringing energy and lifting people up, who's he talking about there? Because I can guess, but I don't want to, I don't want to blindly speculate. But who's he talking about bringing the energy and transferring that energy to other people?
Yeah, I don't. I've got some folks in mind, but I don't have anything specific to go on as far as names that I've heard about or anything like that. But to me, I think it's telling when you hear those comments. But the one thing that is not being said is that when you have those type of external issues happening with a player or players, what you're able to do is come together through practice, through games, and kind of just really use that as kind of a therapeutic session. Well, in this COVID-19 social distancing crammed ass schedule, no time to practice, no time to have those off the court just casual interactions that you have in a normal season, you can't fix this stuff. You're trying to get right. It's one thing to identify the problem, but players use the game and practice and those down moments to really galvanize themselves and reset the table.
But doesn't everybody?
Well,
doesn't every team? Isn't every team dealing with what they're dealing with? Isn't every team dealing with no crowd? Isn't every team dealing with ups and downs and all of that stuff? And again, I know, Sherrod, real quick, I want to welcome in Josue from the Garden. You know, you're there, Josue. What are you seeing in terms of body language, the guys who are out there, you know, on the bench in between timeouts? You saw a couple of moments where you see guys slump their shoulders. That 3-on-1 where Grant gave it back to Pritchard and he gets stuffed and Tatum's just like, ugh, you know, like this just, you know.
I think in the third quarter, you saw a little bit of a difference, whether it was just overall effort and seeing them go out and defend the three-point arc. But, I mean, that first half, the body language didn't look great. Again, they continue to look like this team that's, like, defeated. They get beside themselves when they get really punched in the mouth in the first quarter, like we've been talking about all season long. And that's exactly what we saw. You know, listen, it's funny. You mentioned what Marcus Smart had to say. I think the part that stood out most to me was when he talked about pressure. And when I believe it was Tom Westerholm, you know, pressed him a bit about it. He said, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by pressure? And he went into how, you know, these NBA players, of course, they have a lot of pressure off the court and, you know, they take this stuff home, whereas we're on the side talking about it. They have to live it every single day. Okay, I get that, Marcus. And, you know, at the same time, that's also what you signed up for. But I don't think when a team like the Celtics goes 500, I don't think he should be talking about these sort of, I don't want to call them excuses, but sort of cop-out answers as to how do they fix this. Now, he does have a good point in the sense that health-wise, I mean, starting five or the best five players haven't played a whole lot of basketball all season long together because of different issues. So he does have a good point there. But when he talks about pressure and he talks about guys taking stuff home, it makes me think that a lot of these guys, I mean, they're putting obviously a lot more pressure, a lot more weight on what they're doing, but also it seems like maybe there's a disconnect between these guys. And I'm not saying that they don't necessarily like each other or, you know, when they go out on the court, maybe the game plan is broken up at some point because of that, because of the stress weighing down on the pressure situations, because they're falling to teams that are under 500, you know. But again, it's not an excuse. You know, Marcus Smart's not a rookie. He's not a second, third year guy. He's been around for quite some time here. So I was a little bit surprised by it. But at the same time, it's like, I get what you're saying, Marcus, but what else? What else is going on?
They don't play hard. They don't play hard enough. And
right.
That, I don't care what you got going on in your family and your personal life, effort is not something that stuff should take away from.
Exactly.
They're not playing hard. And what I'm struggling to understand is, one, why aren't you playing hard? And why isn't somebody up in arms about this? Like when they lose games like this, they're able to rationalize why they lost the game. We just didn't do this well enough. I want to see someone actually scream in someone's face, grab someone by the freaking jersey and say, what the F are you doing?
Well, that's
what
the problem. That's the problem. And again, I don't want to point.
They need an asshole in the locker room.
But that's the problem. It's hard to point to the Jays without knowing that that's what's doing it. But you see the effort. I mean, again, you had their assist to turnover ratio tonight was again terrible. I don't think they're looking for their teammates. They're trying to do it all themselves, whether that's the pressure of, you know, just being the only guys who can do it there, or just the way they're wired, or just, I don't know, lack of whatever it is. But it's that these are not guys who are up all the time. You know, Jaylen Brown over the course of his career has had issues bringing the energy that he's even cited. He's brought them up himself, and those are in normal times. So these are not normal times. And again, I'll get into Jaylen a little bit later because he has about 8 to 10 moments each game that are freaking infuriating, despite the fact that, He has stretches like he had in the third quarter where he's saving the team and putting them on his back. But it's just the body language with those guys. You're right. You've got Brad on the sideline who's not a get-in-your-face yelling sort of guy, and your two signature players are really soft-spoken, and they mumble in interviews, and they don't get in your face. And that's – energy sometimes is a show as much as it is. Like, you might have fire inside, but sometimes you've got to you see the excuse. You see people say, it's not the kind of guy he is. That's not the kind of guy Brad is. But somebody's got to bring it. You can't just have Marcus Smart throwing chairs in a locker room after a game is the only form of energy this team's going to have. Like, these guys have to find a way to lift people up. They're not doing it through their actions, and they're not doing it, through their emotion.
I want to see that. I want to see Marcus lose it because, frankly, someone has to remind these guys that we're not playing hard, and you don't use it in the nice level tone that I'm talking right now. You basically, you have to be an asshole about it. And Marcus, I love him to death. He can be that. It is within him. And for me, at this point, he's the guy that when you talk about being true to who you are, being authentic, being able to provide that energy, that spark, that anger, there's no one better qualified to be that person than Marcus. I always worried about, as Marcus got older and more mature and seasoned, whether that fire that he would display when in his early years in the NBA, whether that would just kind of be toned back and coiled in, and how would that affect the team that he's playing with. And Marcus seems really level-headed about all the stuff that's going on. And that's a problem, because that's not the Marcus Smart that I know that can be the game changer that we all know he has the potential to be. And everyone has to figure out how to be themselves. And Marcus, I don't know if he's being authentic to who he is. I think he's doing what the team may want him to be like and do. But I kind of miss that asshole Marcus Smart, that guy that would get angry and would get in guys' face and would just piss people off. They need him because he's not out there now. He's good, but he's not that guy now.
You used to have to hold him back every game, remember?
I love that. I love ready to jump on DeMarcus Cousins' ass. I love seeing that stuff. Yeah. He lose, but that's okay.
Right.
So the thing I tweeted during the game, and I'll say it here because I'm sure there wasn't a lot of people who saw the tweet, is that if this Celtics team was in the NCAA tournament, they would be that 12 seed. They would be that 5 seed that loses to the 12 seed. Just that team that everyone's like, yeah, I'm picking against them. Like, they're like prime for an upset. Like, they're just that team that just doesn't bring it. They're Tennessee, like
Tennessee. Yes, Jimmy. Boom.
They're literally they're Tennessee. Like, that's the Celtics team. Like, they just don't have that killer instinct. They don't have that fire. They don't have like that tenacity that you want. I mean, there's probably a million reasons for it, but a lot of them have to do with the top of the roster and above that. And I'm a firm believer in a few things. One, speaking things into existence is huge. I mean, we see winning teams. That's how they attack the day. That's how they attack games. They believe in what they think. They believe in what they say, and they constantly say it. I think the Patriots are a prime example of that. Their leadership over the years, those guys exude nothing but confidence from start to finish. Celtics, I never hear anything like positive or good or encouraging or anything even close out of that locker room from any of the players. I mean, the coaches, Brad, whatever. Again, it goes back to like the style of, Coach Brad is and the style of players these guys are. Like, they just don't, aside from Marcus, they just don't really seem to have that type of mentality. And the other thing I'm a believer in is being a product of your environment. There's a really good book out there called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sure you guys have either heard it, read it, or whatnot. It's all about how small changes lead to big changes, and how, being a product of your environment can change how things roll. And this team it seems to be going in the opposite direction. Like, they're a product of what's becoming a worse and worse environment, whether it's, rumors about the coach leaving, which is apparently, completely media driven. I think we can all say, I mean, there hasn't really been any other reason to think that Brad would leave. Or whether it's, players just not stepping up and not, showing up and not being consistent. For whatever the reason is, this team is going backwards, and they're not a team that is trending in the direction of confidence, not a team that's, making positive changes, even little things that, they can build off of. They're going into the trade deadline probably all wondering if they'll even be on the team next week because they don't know if they're buyers or they're sellers at this point. I mean, it's just we're at the point where like who are these guys?
But that's the thing is so prior to the game, and I'm gonna get into Brad's comments about the staying and stuff because again, media driven or not, I think from Indiana the interest in Brad was absolutely real. Whether or not Brad's interest, whether the interest was mutual, certainly seemed like it was driven by the media in terms of just putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with it. Yeah,
I mean, it kind of makes sense to, connect the dots. Sure.
But just now in the post game, Brad delivers another quote about togetherness, playing together. And before, I swear, this is my least favorite Brad quote of all time when he talks about we have to be the best version of ourselves. He says it and I get it. I can't stand it.
I don't even know what that version is.
Stand it. Just say, we freaking suck right now instead of we have to be the best version of ourselves. You're not talking to toddlers, okay? And we keep saying that like, okay, Johnny, I need you to be the best version of yourself today and don't throw a stapler at your classmate. Like, right. I don't want to hear
being
that.
the best version of ourselves, basically saying we suck, but we need to be the best team. We need to be the best sucking team as possible.
Yeah, I hate that. But before the game, Brad addressed the IU rumors and gave the greatest Brad quote of his entire Boston tenure by far. Probably did more to ingratiate himself with this quote than anything that he's said or done this season. And I think bought himself a little bit of goodwill and ended the speculation. So I'll play this real quick.
Are you considering the Indiana University job right now, or kind of where does that stand?
Said it the other day. I'm not, and I tried to say it as clearly as I could, and also make sure that people understand that place to me is special. I hope they hire whoever they hire, and I hope they're there for 20 years and kids feel like I did. But I'm not a kid anymore. I'm a 44-year-old masshole. I swerve around others. When I'm driving, I eat Dunkin' Donuts and I root for the Patriots.
Yes, sir.
I'm unfortunately been skewed in a lot of ways, I guess.
So again,
I'm 44 years old. I'm a grown man.
I'm 40.
But going to the Packy afterwards, kid. Hall of Fame quote. Great. But so look at it this way. If you were a Celtics player, okay, now let's just get in their heads, okay? You're a Celtics player and there's stories, rumors about your coach leaving. Your coach comes out there and says, hell no, I'm here forever. We're going through this fight together. We're going through tough times, but I love you guys. I want to stay. And then the players go out and they drop 45 points in a listless first half and a 10-point deficit at home and then collapse late in the fourth quarter. What does that say about them? Again, people are still like, oh, I don't think they're tuning him out. At what point do you start to acknowledge that, like, they're not laying out for one another or for him right now? They're not.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I mean, there is no North Star that they're gravitating towards. They're not tuning him out or tuning him in. They're not just playing hard for themselves. They're just out. They're just 15 bodies running up and down the court because that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. They're not playing as if there's a purpose. There's no purpose to what they're playing for right now. They're not looking engaged, and what they'll do and what they've been done consistently is they'll show you just enough glimpses of them at their best. As Brad would say, they've been being the best versions of themselves. Hit the refresh button. They're the best version of themselves now. And then it'll go away. I
stand that quote. It kills me.
And it goes
nails on a chalkboard. We got to be the best version of ourselves. Kills
refresh
me.
Button, refresh.
Oh,
so Brad's message I thought was it was funny, it was great. Everyone eats it up. But like, is that still like, I don't know, that like if he says that to his players, like, hey guys, like I'm a asshole, I'm going nowhere. Like, I don't know, is that really gonna fire them up? Like maybe he has a different way. Exactly. It's like, guys, I swerve around cars on the highway. I drink Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not going anywhere. Let's go out there and win this game. Like you'd be like he's hopefully he can relay that message in a different way that can kind of fire up his players. And I have no idea what they say to each other or what he says to them in the locker room, but it does kind of feel like, again, they play listless. They play like a team that this is like how they play. Like, well, I don't know. I guess we'll win this one, or I guess we lost this one. Like Sherrod said earlier, like I don't even know what the scout just blew my mind with that text. Like I couldn't figure out which answer I wanted to use. But I think the point was like they don't really care like one way or the other, like what's going on out there.
Yeah, and that's a problem. That's a problem when you do.
Absolutely.
To me, I would much rather a team doesn't care and plays like they don't care. Like, I look at a team like the Houston Rockets. I mean, they don't have much. They play hard, but they're not very good, and they know that. And they play like a team that's not very good, who knows who they are. You look at a team like Brooklyn and Utah. They can be down by 10, 15 points, and they know just like that. They can beat you by 10 or 15 points in a matter of minutes. The Celtics, they don't really seem to know who they want to be. They're out there playing. They don't play like a team that should be out of the playoffs. They don't play like a team that wants to be the top of the mountaintop. They play like a team that's just happy to be in the building.
So let's put it this way. And again, so you can look around and again, point fingers at, okay, there's not great support players here on this team. Understandable. He's been struggling to figure out who to rotate in, who to play as that third wing behind Tatum and Brown, struggling to find offense when at least two of the guys between it's Kemba, Brown, and Tatum aren't on the floor. It's not an easy, the puzzle pieces are weird, okay? Playing that too big lineup, having injuries, I get it. He's at a bit of a disadvantage here. But at what point, again, if now you're looking at, you're going to put you're going to put it squarely on the shoulders of the people who are meant to lead you. And again, that's why I keep looking at the Jays. They have to take it to another level and transcend where they are right now because it's on them. If you are surrounded by lesser pieces, you have to double your efforts at this point. It doesn't mean I'm going to just score more. You have to figure out a way to right the ship, to make everybody better, to do all that. If he doesn't believe he's getting effort from anybody who's in that first 5 or first 6 or first 7, I say send a message of some sort. Sit somebody, change a rotation, do something. He just keeps kind of repeating the same things. Again, the rotation changed a little bit today, but if your starters aren't giving you energy, you've got to do something at some point, right? I don't know what that something is, but
you got to do something drastic. You got to do something that's
you have to do something drastic at this point. Yeah,
something that's uncharacteristic of Brad. And listen, I think a lot of that Duncan stuff and all that Boston stuff before the game, it was also a PR move. I mean, let's be honest here. Let me get it out there once again, once and for all. I love this city. I love this team, and we can move on. But at the same time, if you're one of those top 4 or 5 players on the team, I'm giving you all I got that night. I'm like, man, coach said what he said. And,
I don't get it.
Yeah, like he's here. He's in it for the long haul. You know what? And everyone can talk about that job over there in Indiana, but you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to play my ass off because I'm going to show everyone that we can make this thing work. We can turn this thing around. And they laid an egg in that first half. Yeah, they were only down by like 10 points at the half, but they should have been down by 20. It's an egg. I mean, and then here comes the third quarter, which we've seen so many times. It's like fresh out of halftime. They come out. They look great. I'm waiting for the beginning of that fourth quarter because that's the stretch where things get ugly. Yeah. The very first play, they knocked out a 3-pointer to start things off. And then it was just essentially all downhill from there, whether it was the 50-50 play, Sacramento winning those, or whether it was them getting buckets in transition. I mean, look, the Celtics, it just comes when we're talking about effort over and over again for a team that's talented enough to not be 500, and we're still talking about this 41 games into the regular season. The coaches lost this team, guys. I mean, it took me a couple of weeks to reach that point, and I'm not saying that they've reached a point where Brad can't get them to refocus. I just don't know how he's going to be able to do that. I think this work is cut out for Brad right now with this team this season.
Yeah, this game was Celtics led 91-90. Okay, 60 with 4:30 to go.
Was that the Pritchard 3, the second one, back to back?
It was.
It lasted for like a second, and then
91-90, and then that was it. That was it.
Yeah,
that was the only lead. Yeah,
91-90, and then the Kings took off 17-5 down the stretch to close it. In the last,
Sean Holmes had like back-to-back blocks, and then Fox hit like 3 shots in a row.
Everything Tatum and Brown tried to do.
All of a sudden it was like, what?
Tatum and Brown head down, going.
How many times have we seen that though?
Yeah,
it's like the same makeup, the same profile team. Whether it's effort on defense with a team that has plenty of shooters, or teams that can buckle down defensively down the stretch, and the Celtics get flustered and start forcing the issue. That's exactly what happened tonight. We've seen this over and over.
ISO, force the issue, turn it over, or get a bad shot, get blocked, whatever.
Let's panic because it's only 5 minutes left.
How many times has a 1 or 3 point game turned into a 9-point game like that? It happened again tonight. In a blink, Sacramento's up 9 and it was over. That's it.
And it's always at that time.
Wasted possession, 3-3 or 3-2 and done, gone, ball game.
And you don't have enough. You don't have enough time to get out of it because your margin for error was so thin because you slacked off at 3.5 quarters. It's happened so many times.
Yep.
And Josue, you mentioned it before, like 2 minutes ago, where you were talking about how they should have reacted to Brad Stevens' message. We've talked about this on the show all year. Can you guys remember one time where they've said commended a coach or even a fellow teammate? Like I'm sure it's happened, but
especially
few
Brad.
and far between. It's few and far between when you hear players talking about Brad or commending Brad, or I mean that I can honestly say that I don't even know if I've heard this year. And
but Jimmy, we used to hear that.
Look at the body of work.
Jimmy Sherrod, we used to hear that all the time. They used to gush over
we
Brad.
hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Remember,
You know what? But back then they were like the little engine that could.
Yeah.
And so anything that they did that moved them in that direction, yay! But now you got expectations, and now you're falling well below those expectations. I don't blame players for not pulling out the Brad Stevens pom poms because he hasn't done anything to this point that deserved to be cheered on. I mean, you've got a freaking 500 team that had 2 All-Stars this year, 3 guys who've been All-Stars within the last 2 years, and I'm sorry, you're what? You're 500? Look around the league.
That's my point, though.
If your head coach is rumored to be going to leave the NBA to go back to college to coach Indiana, you got to feel some type of way about that. It's like, well, wait a minute, we're not that bad, but they didn't have that kind of response.
You know what?
But
here's my thing: if that was something that as a player bothered you, then you would play actually better because your whole point there.
That's what I'm saying.
If he wants out, we're going to show him what he's going to be walking away from. But you know what? They don't care. It didn't. Whether Brad was rumored to be going there, whether he's staying, it does not matter. These guys are not moved emotionally to engage themselves in the kind of art of combat that you need to get your act together.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what Brad's situation is. It is completely irrelevant. And I think I'm starting to put more and more substance into what Marcus Smart was saying about how something is going on outside of what's happening on the court that is spilling onto the court, and they have yet to figure out how to rectify that and make it so that it's not such a big factor in their success. Because clearly there's something wrong within that team dynamic that they can't get their hands on. And I don't believe it's X's and O's. I don't believe it's guys with injuries. To me, there's something that's mentally in their heads collectively that is absolutely screwing up the entire system.
I want to get Jimmy's take real quick, but again, we've brought this up before. We had Kevin McHale was on with Max, and in the nicest way possible, all Max asked him was say something to Celtics fans watching this team right now, and he just said basically the message was, guys, play for each other, man. You've got to want your teammates to succeed. And that's where you're going to find joy in the game. And if you don't, it's not going to work. And Max didn't even ask him a pointed question. That was McHale's 30,000 foot view of this team. I'm watching these guys and they're not playing for one another. Take it for what it's worth. But Jimmy, go ahead.
My just to follow up on what Josue and Sherrod were talking about with Brad, I don't expect the team to be like, go Brad, go. We love everything that's going on. But throughout the course of the season, Brad's taken a lot of heat, whether justified or not. And never once did I hear a player come to his defense and be like, listen, this is our coach, this is our guy, we're playing
the best
Brad.
In the league, smartest
we're
guy
in this together.
Yep.
Never once. It's not even so much about the fact that the rumors about Indiana, but just when the heat was getting on Brad, as it has over the last month or 2 months, even now, it's crickets from his players, and that to me speaks volumes about is this team in it together? Do they have each other's backs? Do they have Brad's back? I feel like I'm not seeing or hearing the support that I would want to see or hear if I was a fan of this team. Thinking, okay, this team has what it takes mentally and physically. They have the skill, they have the camaraderie, they're in it together, and they have each other's backs. I just don't get that vibe at all.
Yeah, but you're talking about a team that one has 2 leaders who just their personalities don't really align with doing
And it
something
doesn't
like
work.
that. Like that's not Tatum's style. That's not JB's style. And two, you're talking about, again, not just two guys who just personality-wise aren't like that, but they're freaking ages. I mean, and again, this is not making an excuse for them, but this, to me, that's the reality, that you're not going to get that. Even if they were winning, I don't think those guys would be touting Brad's as, putting them in great positions to do great things and all that stuff. That's not who they are. I think ultimately everything comes back to, what are you getting done on the floor? And right now, they're not engaged in Brad one way or the other. I don't think they're tuning him in. I don't think they're tuning him out. I think they are just out there running up and down the damn court, playing basketball with no North Star that they're aiming towards.
It's five guys playing in single player mode, that's it. They're just kind of, that's it. It is. It's just single player mode. It's, and again, I don't want to go, I am going to go directly. Something's been bugging me a bit. It's I've noticed like a couple of games where Jaylen has like a salvageable stat line at the end of the game. He'll do about 8 or 9 things that'll drive you freaking nuts. But I swear, I've been watching it closely the last few games. It's never been his thing, but he doesn't look up once when he's on his way. Once he gets the ball in his hand, he doesn't look up once. He just starts going. The only time he'll ever pass is if he gets trapped and he's out of sync. There was one sequence earlier in the game, and I've been watching specifically for this, and it has just been driving me nuts. And you guys might disagree, but again, he and Tatum were terrible tonight in their assist to turnover ratio. I think it was 6 assists and 9 turnovers between the two of them. And we're talking about needing to make each other better. One sequence where Brown's got the ball and he drives head down. Brad finally did what we've been dying for him to do. He cut the rotation and he played the kids. He played Pritchard. Teague sat the whole time. He gave Nesmith some minutes. He didn't play Semi. I want to see that for the rest of the season. I don't care if it results in wins or losses. But Nesmith's out there for one reason, and that's to create space and to shoot. And JB went to the basket 2 or 3 times and drew defenders. One time, clearly, they all suck into him in the lane, okay? And Nesmith sitting there. That's what that play is designed for. Draw the defense, kick for 3. Right there, doesn't give it to him, shoots a floater off one leg from the free throw line, which is about a 22% efficiency shot in a game. But he makes it. Great. So nobody says anything about it. Next time down, again, head down, dribble, gets trapped on the baseline, and then he gets up and he starts looking, and then he passes it to Rob. It was just that little sequence, just emblematic of almost all of his possessions at this point, which is, and again, maybe it's because he's thinking, I've got to take it on myself. Maybe it's because he's thinking, I don't get the ball enough in a shared environment, so I have to get mine when I do have mine. Yeah. I don't know which one it is, but it's gotten way worse. At the beginning of the year, he seemed to be, playing with a different flow, going at the right time, not at the others. There was more overall general awareness, situational awareness when he had an opportunity to be aggressive, when he needed to kind of work the ball back around. And now it's just give me the ball and go. And it's just he's reverted to like 2018 Jaylen Brown instead of the guy we saw late last season and in the beginning of this season who'd showed those next evolutions. The dribble is sloppy. The turnovers are up. It's a definite regression. I don't know if it's all knee-based or it's just something in his head where he's lost the plot a little bit.
I think he's just trying to do too much.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what's happening because I think he's trying to do too much because the guys around him aren't doing enough. He's looking around.
I don't disagree with that. It might just be pressing because he thinks I got to do it.
Well, part of his problem though with that approach is it erodes away at the team's overall trust factor. When you start making those types of plays, even when you're making those shots
all the time, right? Everyone's like, what am I out here for?
If I'm Aaron Naismith, I'm thinking like, damn, you do realize they drafted me because I'm a shooter.
Man.
Yeah.
Right.
I may not make every shot, but damn, can I get a look? I mean, he's not even looking him off. It's one thing to look at a guy and still make your shot. He's not even getting the glance. That's
not even looking.
It sounds like
he stepped on the court. Brown. He stepped on the court tonight, and they had no idea who he was. They were like, "Wait,
hi, I'm Jaylen. I'm Aaron. I've been here for 41 games. Oh,
cool. Oh, my bad. That's
right. I'm telling you guys.
Why is the ball boy on the court? Why is the
Get
ball
him
boy
off
in
the
the
court.
corner?
Get him off the court.
Yeah.
Listen,
Like you look like a shorter Hassan Whiteside. What are you doing here? Who are you?
Tatum and Jaylen
Yeah,
Brown.
wait.
I said this before the All-Star break, guys. They need to have that uncomfortable conversation, damn it. You think they've had it? You think they talk about the problems of this team? You think they dissect Brad Stevens' game plan? No.
I think they've had conversations about it, but they haven't had the uncomfortable conversation where it's
That's
like,
what I'm
you know
talking
what? I need to be better. You need to start doing this.
Exactly. I hate when you do this. I hate when you do that. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. And those conversations, they're not about finger pointing. They're getting all the issues out on the table so you can process and dig through those and find a common solution.
If this were a band, they would break up and go on there and do little solo tours for a little bit, and then maybe come back after they realize they were better with one another.
Jaylen would drop a solo. He'd drop a solo mixtape by now, man. For sure.
Yeah.
One Direction for the Gen Zs out there.
And Jaylen's Bobby Brown.
Sure.
I don't know who was in One Direction, but
see, New Edition is from Boston, Jimmy. That's why I went with them, Jimmy. So
I like that. I like that. Jaylen's Bobby. Jaylen's Bobby, Sherrod.
New Edition's mine and Sherrod's era.
And
what do you think of that?
And listen, Celtics were never as good.
What do you think of that, Sherrod? He's Bobby Brown.
One Direction was before they broke up.
That Jaylen could be Bobby Brown in a sense of
being that guy. See that.
You know what? I'm out. I'm gonna do my own thing.
I can see that, and just be a smash.
Exactly, and be successful. Right, and be successful.
Yeah. On the other side of JB, you have Tatum. Not a great game for him. And again, we keep hearing, and there was another good story today, Tom Haberstroh, about the COVID effects of players. You know, I am willing to – I don't know what's going on with Tatum with that. So it is hard to criticize entirely heart and effort when he's acknowledging that, like, I'm still having some weird respiratory issues. I think it's pretty clear he hasn't been entirely the same guy. So it's harder for me to do the straight Tatum criticism here, but he definitely has had those moments where he's in it or he's not, or he's engaged or he's not. I don't know if he's picking his spots because energy is kind of ebbs and flows during the course of the game. It's tough to figure out what's going on with him, but this was another kind of disengaged game from him as well, you know? And there's way too many of these. I mean, you can count them on one hand last year pre-bubble when he started the season pressing. Once he got locked in, you never saw these types of games. Now it's every other game where you get a Tatum wasn't himself sort of game. It's way too frequent for a superstar to have this many, to lay this many eggs. And it seems like he does it a lot.
Sometimes I think he thinks that's going to get the guys going, right? Or maybe if I take a step back, they'll figure things out. No, it doesn't work like that, Jayson. I mean, some of these guys you're playing with, they've been in the league for less than a year. Some of these guys didn't get Peyton Pritchard, the rookies, they didn't even get a preseason of the way a routine rookie is supposed to in this league. And I think a lot of the times that's the wrong way to go about it. I compared him to going through the phase that LeBron James went through when he finally was able to put it together in a sense of making his teammates better, right? He realized, wait a minute, maybe I don't need to drop 47 points to put this team, over the hump. I got to empower guys that no one's, ever heard of. The roster that everyone says had no business ever making the NBA Finals. How did that happen? And listen, I know Jayson Tatum is not on the level of LeBron James, but he has to start thinking that way. He has a lot of miles, and I mean that in a good way, of a third or fourth-year guy who's been so deep in the playoffs. That's such a unique experience that a lot of guys don't get to go through. And I think that's the next step of his evolution. How is he going to become a better passer and get guys involved forcefully? Not take a step back and say, all right, guys, you guys do your thing. I'll step in when I need to. No, it doesn't work that way. That's not a way a team can be very successful in this league.
So you know what? I'm gonna have to take exception to that, because I think offensively, I think he has shown a willingness to get guys more involved than we've seen in past years. To me, the regression that I'm seeing more than anything is at the defensive end of the floor. And that, to me, is troubling, because that's the part of the game where if you're the best player and you're standing out for all the right reasons at that end of the floor, that is going to jumpstart your teammates. That's the stimulus package that this team needs right now. Defensive. That's what they need. I mean, Tatum needs to be that guy. He needs to uplift those guys at that end of the floor. Because we've seen when this team has gone on great runs, it has always been the defense leading the charge. It's always defense creating easy offense. And it hasn't always been Tatum. It hasn't always been Jaylen. It's been the whole team involved in that, whether it's, Tice getting a rebound that leads to a layup for Jaylen, or Tatum getting a steal that leads to a three-pointer for Peyton. They have to find a way, and Tatum is specifically has to find a way to make a bigger impact at that end of the floor, because that is going to be what gets this team out of the malaise they're in. They need Tatum to be that defensive stimulus package to get this train back to moving.
I like that. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. You know what? Brad Stevens, that used to be his MO, right?
When he had teams that had minimal talent. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Like Indiana?
I said this before, Sherrod, in past shows.
Count it.
Somebody's count it.
I give him that.
A buddy of mine said this to me, so I can't take full credit, but he said Brad Stevens is the type of guy that can raise the floor, but he can't necessarily raise the ceiling. And he's used like the last couple of years as an example of that, where he can bring like underachieving guys or guys off the radar or bad guys. He can bring them up to a competitive level, but he can't necessarily, or he hasn't shown that he can really take a great player and make him a superstar, or tap into it to the point
someone's already ascended,
or somebody who's already there and like keep him there, or bring him to that final level sort of thing. So I thought that was kind of an interesting like observation about Brad, because that is when Brad was getting all the praise, was in those first few years where he was taking over teams that were, underrated or completely just written off, and, they were outperforming teams and outworking teams. That's the thing, is like you get certain players that were outworking guys. Like you don't get that now. Like rarely are these guys like outworking the other team. They might win some games just based on talent, even when they're not playing at their best, but they're rarely like putting in that work, it feels like, and just, winning the 50-50 battles, or just like those, like how many close games down the stretch they just straight up lose because like they just don't execute, or they don't, whatever it is down the stretch, they're just not doing it, and they haven't done it for some time now. It's almost and I think there was a comment that you posted, John. It's like whatever Jaylen Brown said, they're when it's supposed to be time for them to, engage and get down to it, they do the opposite.
But here's another thing I hate. As much as I hate Brad's, best version of ourselves, I hate a bunch of people sitting in post-game comments saying we, but talking about other people and not themselves. Like we is code for them, okay?
Yeah,
and everybody says we. And it drives me nuts. Collectively do something. It's all of you. I don't want to hear Jaylen say we, okay? Say I. I didn't bring focus. Tell me what you didn't do. We means a lot of other people, okay?
Placing blame elsewhere,
and a lot of people are saying we. And what do you mean by we? We means them, okay? We doesn't mean we, okay? And everyone's saying it. Marcus prior to the game, Jaylen after the game, okay? Who isn't? If you're not doing, own up to it. If you've got a problem, stuff's in your head, you can't focus, ask out for a game and go get your head right. But don't keep showing up and playing 50% of your minutes hard and the rest just walking around and then saying, we got to play harder. I can't stand that. I really don't like it. It's just passing the buck.
Yeah.
To make Miss League, John, make Miss League. Both teams play hard.
Both teams played hard.
Well, John, we just have to be the best version of ourselves, John. That's all. That's all we gotta do.
Hold on, real quick. I got a question. Sherrod, were you there when she said that? I feel like you were, or no?
Which comment? Both teams play hard?
Yeah, when she said that, weren't you there or no? Was he still the Pistons?
No, when he said both teams played hard,
Blazers,
he was in Portland.
He was in Portland,
he was still in Portland. Yeah.
That was hilarious, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an all-timer.
That's one of the few clean sheet memorable quotes that's repeatable.
Sherrod, since we're asking you questions, I got one for you. You covered the Pistons for a long time, and you covered some really, really great teams, and teams that surprised a lot of people and just outworked teams all the time. And then you covered the Celtics.
I know,
championship
right?
year.
I know where you're going with this, Jimmy. That's a good call.
Yeah, and the last couple of years you've been covering these teams, and do you notice a big difference in those championship teams and those teams that won a lot of games in this team? Like what
Hell
stands out to you?
Huge difference. I mean, we don't have enough time to get into all of them, so I'll just give you some of the highlights.
That's why I asked.
The biggest difference is on the floor leadership. Whereas with the Celtics, we're trying to find one leader. The Pistons, when they were in championship mode competing for a title, there was no shortage of leaders. And there were subtle things that they did during games that showed that seemed to get their certain guys fired up to play with great effort. For example, if the Pistons won the opening tip, the very first play during the couple years where Larry Brown was there, they would give the ball to Ben Wallace on the block and everyone would clear out. And it didn't matter whether he scored or not. The fact is they're giving big fella, who they're going to need to bust his ass defensively, a shot to get on the board right off the jump. And he loved it. And I would say probably 35-40% of the time he scored, but the rest of the time it didn't matter because his teams trusted him to do something that he wanted to do. And the way that he responded was that, okay, since they're going to try to look out for me on offense, I'm going to protect their asses on defense. And there were little things like, like Chauncey Billups would see Rip Hamilton with a mismatch, and he would just say, Rip, take that MF and go to work. And they would respond. You don't see that. Like like when I see Jaylen Brown, when I see Jaylen Brown matched up with a guy who's like 5'10", I don't see them looking to get him the rock and everyone get out the way so he can go to work on a little fella. You don't see, and to me, I don't think they understand that little things like that. Well, even if that guy scores or not, he's going to bust his butt at the other end of the floor because you trusted him to help the team, and in turn, he's going to trust himself to help you at the other end of the floor. There are some trust issues with these guys, and I don't know where that stemmed from. I don't know how to fix that. But they need to learn how to trust one another, not just for 3, 4, 5 minutes when they're down by 12 to a bad team and they can get back to whipping 3 or 4. They need to trust each other from the jump.
What if they can't? That's the thing. I keep thinking like we're asking for things like the whole broadcast. Scal and Gorman were like, yeah, if they just played harder, they'd be better. Like, what if it's not in them? Like that's the thing. And instead of saying if they did this, ask the question, why aren't they doing it? And that's really the problem is, what is it? Is it they don't like each other? They're not into this season because of all the stuff swirling. They've tuned out Brad. There's, as you said, Sherrod, there's something right now that is keeping these guys from going out. And again, we've all worked places before where something you don't like, and you've just decided it's a paycheck and I'm going to go in and clock out and keep my mouth shut. Walk out the door. And everybody's had those situations. And it's because you hate your boss, you hate your coworker, whatever it is. And it's just, I'm just putting my head down and picking them up and putting them down. And I'm going to get out of there. And that's it. I'm going to go home and I'm going to pound friggin' 6 beers and, whatever. And forget about it.
Do it all over again tomorrow.
And start all over again. Okay. So it's got that vibe of the, I don't like coming to work vibe.
It does. You're right.
Yeah.
It does.
And that's depressing. Let me play Brad real quick. People are asking about it. Here's that post game. I believe it's the one that's going to make me cringe. But here's Brad talking about the loss after the game.
I'm more looking at the engagement level in each other, and that's what wasn't there in that game early on. And that, again, this is not they are good people and have great. I can't say enough good things about them. That's why I believe it's there. That's why, like I told you, Tim, you mentioned, I think our ceiling's better than we played because I believe in who we have. We got to do it together. That's the bottom line.
That was beautiful.
Our engagement with one another. Like, these guys don't like each other.
John, these are good people.
This is the part, John.
They just got to find the best movie. Listen, they just gotta hit that refresh button and find the best version of themselves. That's all.
That's when you cue the slow music, the Disney background score music. That's what that was.
I was feeling that a little bit.
He was into it. Don't let John ruin it for you. Don't let John ruin it for you.
We gotta get engaged with one another. Engagement.
So now we're gonna shift to the Bachelor. Is that what we're doing now? We're going to talk about The Bachelor since we're talking about engagement.
That's the scene. That's the scene when they show Pritchard in the back listening to Brad. He doesn't know he's there, but he's watching the whole time. He's engaged. That's what that was. That's the cute moment of the season. This is it. It's a turning point.
They're good. They're good people. I just don't know why they're being so mean to me right now. Like,
Why? Why?
I know they're good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's.
I think just watching them play, I think Danny he's got to figure something out to do something with this group. He has to find a way to just find some type of just agitator. I know that's one of Doc Rivers' favorite types of players. You got to have agitators. They need someone to shake things up. They need someone to just shake them into wanting to care, not so much about Brad or about winning as much as just care about each other. Play like you want to play with each other. As John, I thought the analogy you had earlier, John, was right on, where you've got like 5 games in one player mode out there, where they're each trying to figure out what they can do to help the team and not think that maybe we need to work together.
Good quote from Jaylen. I don't have it, but it is. We were talking about saying I haven't done a good job of leading this group. I lose sleep at night because of that. So going along the thing that you said of pressing too hard, you're right. This is where you do feel some sympathy for the Jays' plight right now, is because of the roster construction the way that it is, they're being asked to do things that aren't necessarily what they should be doing given their skill set, which is be facilitator, Tatum taking the ball up, do different things like that. But also, and defenses are keying on them because there's just not a lot of other offenses on the floor. So scoring is harder than it's been in years past. Everything's harder for them. So you're right. It could be just simply, I'm trying to do it all and I'm making things worse as a result of it. And if that's the case, it's a growing pains issue. If it's the other thing, which is I say that after the game, but the reality is I kind of walked through half the game today and didn't give it my all. That's a different story. So it's nice to say that, but you got to be honest with yourself. Like, did you try? Ultimately, I mean, why did everything work under Brad? For real. The Steven stuff worked because it was full buy-in. You play this brand of defense and intensity and toughness where everybody switches and it's everything moving and working together. And it doesn't work unless everybody's doing it at the same time. And when you have your best offenses, it's great ball movement offenses. Okay. They're doing neither of those things right now. Those are a matter of effort and focus, I think. Okay. It has nothing to do with anything else. You're either giving the effort to play defense or focused on running the offense the way the coach wants you to run it. They're not doing either of those things. That's what I don't get. It's nice to say after the game, I have to do better, but also, why aren't you doing better? When really it just comes down to just trying.
Well, I think, when Brad was talking about, these are really good guys, good people. I don't want to hear that. I would prefer that they were assholes who played well together than good guys who don't play well together. I can deal with that. And I guess part of my frustration with this team is that when I look at Jaylen and I look at Jayson and the roles that they have to play on this team as their leaders, look around the league. How many 23, 24-year-old leaders are actually playing on legitimate title contenders? They don't exist. Those guys don't exist. And so these guys are being asked to play roles that are far beyond their age and maturity and things like that. And they're struggling with that. And part of that, and listen, when you talk about like doling out blame pie for effort and all things like that, I put a lot of this on Danny Ainge because he hasn't surrounded those guys with the type of players that for young on the rise leaders need. Like, you don't have a guy with the Al Horford cachet. You don't have a guy with the Aaron Baines cachet. You got Tristan Thompson.
What, you don't like Tristan Thompson, Sherrod? No, you don't like a little bit of that, or some Jeff
I like
T?
Tristan Thompson when he's my 5th option. I like Tristan Thompson when I've got 2 or 3 other guys who are superior leaders to him with as much, if not more, experience. I don't like him if that's my leadership anchor is Tristan Thompson. Are you serious?
Well, you know what stinks? It has to be. You know what? Here's the problem. Here's the dilemma again in this team. It actually has to be Kemba, but Kemba's desperately trying. Kemba's the best fit personality-wise to do it.
Kemba's the biggest wild card in here. He's the one that,
But he's trying so hard he doesn't know what to do anymore. He doesn't know who to be. He's trying to defer to the Jays, saying it's their team, and now I'm the guy here to support them. But then at the same time, he'll go out and he'll have games where he'll shoot 8 times, and he's like, I got to be more aggressive. On a night in, night out basis, he really is struggling to figure out who he needs to be, but he is the type of guy that could be the get on my back, I'm gonna get it done sort of guy on this team. But he's just stuck in a weird place where he's not sure exactly what he's supposed to. He's trying to feel it out on a given night. Is this the night you guys need me to jack it 20 times? Okay, cool. I'm going to do that.
Right.
You know, but it's never clear, you know?
Well, it's never clear because Kemba, his personality doesn't. It's weird that he was this really great player in Charlotte and put up numbers and they lost all the time. And he gets here and he's perfectly cool with taking a seat back to the Jays, which – on paper seems like a good idea, but then you realize the battles that Kemba has been through as a leader, the scars that he still has, they need to understand you don't want to be me. You don't want to be on a team that's pretty good and you're losing all the time because those are years you're not going to get back. Kemba will never get back his best years in the NBA and be in a winning situation. And Tatum and Jaylen have lots of great years ahead of them. But damn it, they better get their act together and start figuring this thing out because they are going to be the second coming of Kemba Walker. And that is a very good player on a team that does not do well. And that sucks when you look at where they began their NBA journey and how far along the road they were towards winning a championship. I mean, when you think about where a guy like Devin Booker, for example, came into the league at, and you look at where Tatum and Brown are, and right now, there's not that big a gap between them. And yet you look at where they started, Devin Booker had no one to play with. And now he's playing with freaking CP3. And they are kicking ass out west. And you look at Jaylen and Jayson. Those guys went to the conference finals 3 out of the last 4 years. And yet they may not even get out of the first round this year. They are regressing in every sense of the word. And I worry that Kemba is never going to be comfortable just saying, fellas, I know you guys are on the come up. But let me just kind of let me rock with this, jacking my shots, doing the things I do, and you guys kind of fit in around me. And if we're winning some games, let's just keep it going. And if we're not, then we can switch it up. But let's force teams to actually be confused about what the hell we're doing. Because right now, everyone is queuing on the Jays, and they're looking at me, Kemba Walker, as that's just that dude that's not going to play.
As soon as the ball swings, you don't even have to guard another guy on the court. As soon as it gets into a Jay's hand, the entire defense is like, cool. It's like, that's great. That's great news. You know, that should be bad for you, you know?
Right.
And they're like, oh, terrific. So everyone just stand over here, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Is what it is. It is messy.
Prior to the All-Star break, that was the thing. When Kemba's going, when Kemba's cooking, it's a completely different team. When he's got opposing guards on their heels, when he's going downhill, he's commanding double teams, triple teams. What happens? Wide open looks. Jaylen Brown gets the ball. He's got like 5 seconds to shoot it. He's got all the time in the world. Easy looks, easy opportunities, you know? And I think that's what's been so devastating for opposing teams when Kemba's playing at that high level, you know? It's just, most of the time, the 3 of them aren't all clicking on the same level, but for the team, they're a different team completely. They're a tough team to beat when Kemba's on.
So we've spent a ton of time saying who should they trade for at this point. Yeah. And also Sherrod, not too long ago, you know, you were kind of, you wrote the thing for BSJ, you know, get ready to kind of stand pat and puke sort of portion of the offseason. And a lot of people are saying Danny has to do something. How much more of this goes on before you actually switch gears? I'm almost all the way over to the absolutely don't do anything anymore. Like, under no circumstances should you make a trade right now to try to improve this team because nothing is going to improve this team. I don't know what the problem may be much deeper than the support group right now. So you got to do a real examination of this team to figure out what the issue is before you just say, here's some more stuff and then get yourself trapped in other contracts and other situations you don't necessarily want to live with going forward. I'm not sure what the play is at this point. And again, I'm not saying sellers, but I am all in on the idea of, hey, if anybody wants another big and you want to give us something of value, Tristan and or Tice is yours, you know, like absolutely. You want to move some people out. That's fine. At this point, And if you can recoup some draft capital or anything like that, anybody silly enough to throw you a friggin' first for Tice or Tristan or some combination, oh, yep, I'll take it, because I don't know. I mean, who wants Harrison Barnes right now? Does that fix things?
I like him.
I like him. Do you want him?
Well, this is why I don't think that'll work, because the issues that seem to be impacting these guys the most are internal. It's not like that a certain player coming in is all of a sudden it's going to have this domino effect and make things better. There are some real legit issues that they are trying to grapple with internally. And, I'm looking at this team and I don't know whether this team, do we need to do a biopsy and take a closer look at what the hell is going on inside? Or do we need to do an autopsy because they're dead on arrival? I can't figure out which.
That's what I'm worried about.
And I think that's part of the challenge right now.
Right.
Do we need to just do a little deeper dive and just reconfigure a few things and then things will work better? Or is this team pretty much dead on arrival at this point?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of Danny's challenge. He doesn't know. If you're looking at this from the outside looking in, it looks as though it's a fixable thing that a move here, a tweak here, you can, but I'm not convinced of that.
But yeah, I'm not going to repaint the house if my plan in the spring is to tear down the house. Right. There's no point to that. It doesn't make sense. Okay. So I don't know what they want to do right now. But again, yeah, I'm not getting new drapes. I'm not going to I'm not going to redo the kitchen if I'm going to bulldoze the friggin' thing. Okay.
No, we don't want drapes.
Yeah, but listen.
Yeah.
At the same time, you got to remember they're in the Eastern Conference, a place where you don't have to be very well above 500 to make the playoffs. You still have 2 top 15 guys. Tell me these guys still can't push to the second round and then just quote unquote see what happens. I mean, I've always been in the camp of I don't want to see Danny go out and blow this team up. But if you can add a couple of pieces here, a shooter, a wing player, an established guy, maybe 2 of them, I think you can not change the season around, but at least put yourself in position to be to have home court in the postseason. You have home court in the Eastern Conference. Come on, guys. Whether it's anyone sitting on that bottom half of the playoff picture, I like my chances with this team because
East is trending up.
In a best of 7 series, man, with those 2 guys, with those 2 top 15 guys in the East, I still like their chances against Philly, against the Brooklyns of the world. I'm not quite sure the Milwaukees. I don't know how I feel.
East is improving, guys.
Hey, best case you get home court in the first round. I mean, you're not better than clearly not better than 4 of the teams in the East, and you're not going to be, regardless of who you bring in. You're not better than the Sixers, the Nets, the Bucks. You're probably not better than the Heat. I mean, that's 4 right there. And then you have to get. I think I'm missing one that's also.
Miami's the 4th one in front of you. It's Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Miami are clear cut in front of you. But right now, in terms of up and comers, you have to like things that are happening with Atlanta. You have to like things that are happening with Charlotte. You have to like things that are happening with the Knicks.
Charlotte.
Okay, all of those teams, absolutely. Toronto's down this year. I still like some stuff with the Pacers. Even though they're down right now, they've been struggling a bit. But you can't definitively say that you feel this franchise is in better position than all of these teams anymore. You used to be able to say that definitively based off of future assets and current things on your roster. You can't say that anymore. You're in Portland land right now, 2 stars and then who knows what else. Like you're in one of those weird spots where you need a lot of help, a lot of help, or you need to look at the people who are supposed to be your guys and say, I don't know if I want them. I don't know if they're my guys anymore. But it's no longer oh my God, you keep these guys and then you add that and you've got your core and you've got all of this stuff. Now it's we got to make a decision about who we want to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the thing is, like when you break it down, obviously when you have Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, those 2 guys, just on paper anyways, put you ahead of a lot of teams in the league and some of those teams in the East that you're talking about. Like you can make the case that you'd rather have those 2 guys than 2 players on the Heat, for example. But the way the Heat have designed their team, they work together. They fit, and that's the problem with the Celtics is that after those 2 players, first of all, the question is, do those 2 players fit with each other? There's no denying that they're both 2 talented players. They're both all-stars. We know what they can do, what they're capable of, but are they the best fit together? Well, you can make the case that maybe they aren't. That doesn't mean that they don't have value across the league. Certainly they do. And I'm not saying go start putting him on the trade block right now. But what John's basically saying is, you got to consider all options.
Look at everything.
You got to consider all options.
You have to look at everything, but I still think, and again, I'm going to beat this drum until I can't beat it no more. I'm putting it on Danny. I think Danny needs to put better complementary pieces around those two guys.
Like Kyrie and Gordon and Al.
I know, man. It's like either way, he can't win, right?
I mean, look,
that was pretty good.
This is why I give Danny the pass, Sherrod, and I've been saying it. I'm sorry, Josue, but this is why I give Danny the pass.
I agree.
He gave them three. Look, he gave Brad 3 superstars, and all of them walked way earlier than everybody thought they were on option years, basically saying, I don't want to play for you guys anymore. Okay. Whether that was the organization, the teammates, or the coach. I mean, how much better are you going to do with Brad? Sure. He didn't have a great offseason. Teague and Thompson are ill-fitting parts and not necessarily what they needed, but I don't know what else they were going to get given their limitations. And you swung and miss on Neesmith, but, it's really hard to judge the kid after 40 games. But outside of that, yeah, Danny gave him a lot of players.
But John, here's my comeback to that. When Danny made all those moves, he absolutely, positively deserved all the praise for putting those young guys in a situation where they could be their best and this team could be elite. Now they're gone. You're right. And he hasn't replenished this. Look, you're losing the assets. But you know what? That's his job. Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, he did the best he could.
That's not happening. I can't give him just like I can't pretend as if him adding those guys is not that big a deal. When in fact it was. I can't pretend that him not replenishing those guys is not that big a deal because it is.
It is, but can you do it in a year when you're thinking, okay, all the logic had Gordon Hayward opting in because he'll never get the deal out there in the market, and everybody assumed that would happen. When he opts out, what do? Mad scramble, get a TPE, do the best you can. Look, we killed Danny. I thought if that Turner deal was on the table, he should have pulled the trigger without even batting an eye because something is better than nothing. And if that was the case, absolutely bad on Danny. If that stuff wasn't real, again, the failings of this offseason are not enough for me to say it's all on him. I think his hands were a little tied with how much he could improve this team this offseason. And I'm giving him a bit of a pass because he's gotten you're talking about the last 4 off seasons, he's gotten 3 of the 6 most coveted players who are available and legitimately available on the free agent market in Kemba, Gordon, and Al. That's an accomplishment. That's something that never happened with the Celtics before. And you get these guys in and then they friggin' walk at the first chance that they get. That doesn't look great. At
that point, you know what, John? Here's the thing, John. At that point, that whole biopsy, autopsy analogy I had earlier, you might want to think about how you look at your coaching staff and your front office when that's happening, when you're able to attract players of that caliber.
I agree.
You can't keep them you can't even keep them the length of the contract you signed them to.
Yeah.
The minute they get a chance to leave, they bounce. That's a problem.
We lost Jimmy. Full autopsy.
That's okay, Jimmy. We'll get Jimmy another day.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was about to say, man. Like, what's the common denominator here? Like, what's the issue? I mean, you have to look internally now and not just look at personnel and say, oh well, yeah, we went to plan A and we went to plan B. Like, yeah, kudos to Danny because he was fortunate enough to land those deals, specifically the Kyrie Irving deal. When you look back on it, so this is the narrative of oh, he doesn't want to give up the assets. He's afraid to make the. You can't say that anymore. How many GMs would have pulled the trigger on that deal?
Right. And Josue, to your point, what's happening with Gordon, what happened with Al, and what happened with Kyrie. You look around the NBA the last 4 or 5 years, and you look at the top 3, top 4, top 5 players. You're not seeing that kind of exodus. You're not seeing teams that have a clear top 4, top 5 talent where you're seeing half of those guys going in a 2-3 year span. It's not happening. Right. So if that in fact is not happening elsewhere, but it's happening in your backyard, you might want to pull out the scalpel and start looking at doing a little biopsy, autopsy action to see what the hell is wrong with your body of work.
Yeah, nobody wants to stay in your way. Like I said, I'm looking at
and listen Brad. Those were successful seasons too. I mean, mine is 2019, right? Yeah. Eastern Conference Finals, you lost to LeBron James, Game 7. I mean, these teams, they went really far.
This is, again,
players wanted out after those opportunities.
We've said it, and again, Brad, the beauty of Brad is this democratic system where everybody gets to kind of be themselves, and he lets players play so they gain confidence and all of that stuff. But it's also directly resulted in people not liking their role or not liking how others were playing around them. Kyrie basically probably didn't think Brad was putting the kids in his place and saying, "This is Kyrie's show, guys. Stand in line behind him," and that's why he left. He didn't like
the post-game comments. Jaylen, getting smart. He didn't like any of that.
And
he's
Kyle,
like, who's in charge here?
Doing that.
Who's in
I
charge?
absolutely support Jaylen in that.
Yeah, so you've got that problem, and then Gordon Hayward just didn't feel wanted enough, and that his talents were being used. That's a fail too. You can't have a player of his talents feel like they're a third wheel. You have to make it feel like he's.
It's the coach's boy. It's the coach's son. Like think about that, guys. Like you couldn't keep Gordon, your boy, the kid you've known since you were 14. Like, gee, or since he was
Al, who we thought was the perfect son. He was like, I'm all set.
I mean,
I'm gonna take this bag and film it.
Was the one that hurt me because that would have been the last guy that I would have thought would have been
ever.
I mean, think about. You look at. This is a guy that won back-to-back national championships in college and could have bounced after the first one and been a lottery pick, but said, "No, I'm gonna come back for one more year." Goes to Atlanta, re-signs year after year after year with Atlanta, and all they could do was just get to the damn playoffs, and that was it. He wasn't trying to hop onto another team. His loyalty was impeccable, and yet he gets to Boston, and he's got a year left on his deal, and he's just like, deuces.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with my team when Al leaves.
Couple promotional messages before we move on, real quick. I just want to say, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And sign up for notifications. You get alerted for these post games. Follow all these knuckleheads on Twitter if you want to know what they're thinking throughout the day. Josue, it's Joe SWAY Sway, correct?
Yes, sir. Joe _Sway, phonetically.
Joe _Sway, John _Zannis, at Jimmy Toscano, one word, correct?
No, I got the underscore too, bro.
You got the underscore? We all got it.
Yeah,
we always forget about you, Jimmy.
All right.
Underscore squad.
We're going to try something here. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Where you going, man? You're on live. You're on
He's
live.
Not ready. He's not ready.
What's up? Am I on?
Yeah, you're on live right now.
Don't recognize that voice, people.
We'll see.
You don't know who that was.
We don't know who that is yet. We don't know who that is yet.
Surprise. It's a surprise.
John, you can see, right? You can see what's going on that end.
I can see, but he's sideways. I thought he was coming in.
Yeah, he's in the hallway somewhere. He's still in the building.
Oh, jeez.
Here he comes. He's upside down now. He's like a bat. I'm not putting him on like a bat.
He's like a bat.
Turn your damn phone up. This is why we can't have nice things.
Secret guest.
This is the beauty of the Celtics postgame show. This is what we do here. This is actually perfect. This is
anything can happen.
How spontaneous things is.
Anything can come. Anything can happen. Anybody can come in. You can come in upside down. You can come in right side.
I promise you guys. I promise you at home it's a good surprise. Okay, if we pull it off, just. I promise. It's not Nick. No, God.
It's not Nick. We wouldn't put you through that.
Everyone say, please be Nick.
It's not Nick.
Nick should just call in right now just to get everyone pissed off.
It's the delivery guy.
Where's my pizza?
Yeah.
It's the delivery guy.
Well, anyways.
Look, our guest is just trying to be the best version of himself. That's all.
That's it. That's all
it is, right? He's working on it.
That's all.
Best version. We only want the best version of this guy. I do not want this half-ass sideways, backwards, upside down effort that he was trying to give early. So if he gets in here, and he's the best version of himself, I promise we'll extend a little longer because it is a treat if we're able to get them on.
I gotta grab my charger. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, go grab. Oh,
Josue.
Go grab the charger. Josue.
Charger, Wi-Fi. We always got some issue with Josue. I mean, charger today, Wi-Fi yesterday. Damn.
It's Wi-Fi. Well, see, he's at the Garden tonight, so we don't have to deal with the Wi-Fi issue. If you haven't noticed, everybody watching, he's got picture perfect video.
I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about this. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. We'll see.
Should we do a drum roll?
Still a little sideways.
Hell no.
Still a little sideways?
Yeah. And now upside down again.
Oh.
Keep working it. Keep working it. Now the other sideways. Just keep rotating. Just
He's almost there.
Another half rotation.
There's only one more way to go.
There's only one other way to go. Point it this way. Yes. Stay there. Kyle Draper.
Hey, y'all hear me or no? Can you hear me?
Hey, there he is.
Yo.
Oh.
What kind of bootleg setup we got here going?
Let's go.
It's your phone.
It's your phone.
What's going on, boys?
Yeah.
See,
I was
telling you about
I was holding it straight up before.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Are you in a hotel room in Boston right now?
This guy.
I'm in San Francisco, man.
Oh, you didn't travel?
Oh, man.
Nah, it's COVID. In case you didn't know, there's a pandemic going on.
Come on, man.
We go everywhere.
Says the guy in Cali.
So hold on.
Yeah.
I
What's
have
up,
a question, though.
What's up, baby?
Like 5 years ago, this would have been an NBC Sports Boston podcast.
Almost. What we got in the background? Is that Corrales?
Yeah, Corrales.
Oh, Corrales. Freaking put him on. Let's go. $6. Send him the link.
6-pack.
You're right, Drapes.
Drapes.
This reminds me of the newsroom back in the day, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Drapes, are you guys saying, Drapes, give me your best angry rant about something right now.
All
How
right.
about the Celtics? How about that?
How about my Brad Stevens rant?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Have it.
Are you guys really trying to get rid of Brad Stevens? The same coach that took you to 3 out of 4 Eastern Conference Finals? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
What do you think?
Is that what?
Sherrod, come in, Sherrod. Come in hot, Sherrod.
What do you think? We're running a hashtag campaign here?
You're crazy, man.
You're right. He is out of the loop. He is out of the
This
loop.
franchise is not a charity. Okay. What you don't,
right,
Drake? Drake?
How's that?
When you file your taxes, do you still get the same discount?
How come I can't hear
Sherrod that you get this year? No, it's what you did now.
Oh man.
All right.
I can hear you, John. I can hear Jimmy.
Yeah, me too.
Sometimes that happens. Drapes, jump out and back in, and we'll give you Sherrod's rant as soon as you get there.
All right.
Yeah. So Kyle Draper, for these guys who don't know, is now covering the Sacramento Kings for California for CSN. Are they CSN? No, it's NBC Sports,
NBC
California
Sports,
or Bay Area. Obviously, Drapes was the pre and post game host at NBC Sports
Sacramento.
Boston. All of us work together. Jimmy Toscano, Sherrod, and I. So a bit of a homecoming here. We'll bring Drapes back in and hope that he can hear Sherrod, because that would be devastating if he can't.
Sometimes I have to do it like 3 times before I can hear everybody. It's just
Sometimes.
That's just the beauty of the program.
Sometimes we're in and out.
Maybe
Sherrod, talk. Drapes, see if Drapes can hear you now.
Drapes, can you hear me?
Thumbs up, Drapes. Can you hear Sherrod?
Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3.
He's got him.
Crushing Drapes.
All right,
as
go
always.
ahead. Go ahead, Sherrod. You got the floor.
Now, Drapes, you're talking about, Brad Stevens and what he did in the past. When you file your taxes, Drapes, do you get discounts on what you got 2, 3, 4 years ago? No, it's about what's happening now. What are you getting now? And right now, Drapes, he's not getting it done with this crew. You have to acknowledge that. Does that mean you get rid of him? No, but at least acknowledge the fact that he ain't getting it done.
Drapes, you can keep it 100 now. Oh man,
he's muted. He's not saying anything important.
Yeah, I thought it was just me. I don't got him.
No, none of us do. He's muted.
He's got nothing to say about you. That West Coast connection, man, is horrible, man. Get a new cellular service, man. That low budget cell service.
Drapes is the boomer in the room.
What? Hey, Josue, did you give him your Wi-Fi connection for this?
Yo, he got me and Perk's connection, man. He got our Wi-Fi.
Man,
make him come back in. He'll see it. I mean, he'll hear you after the second time. That's what used to happen to Jimmy. It happens to Jimmy all the time.
It happens to Jimmy all the time. We'll try Draper again. See if his mic is working this time.
This time's gonna work. Oh man. I think it's because Jimmy came at the exact same time. One more time, Drapes. One more.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, we got you.
You got me, John?
Yes.
Good.
I don't hear you.
You don't
hear who?
All right, there you go.
He's coming back.
All right, Drapes has the floor.
All right, let's go.
All right, go ahead. You got the floor.
I got the floor?
I thought you were about to say something before.
I'm going back to Sherrod's analogy. He's talking about taxes, if your tax attorney, your tax preparer gets you a refund 5 years in a row, the 1 year you got to pay taxes, you ready to jump ship? Come on, Sherrod. All about the players. Now,
Actually, yes. I want to have Drake. You know what? Hey, Drake, here's the thing with that. I may not be ready to jump ship, but we need to have a conversation and figure out why the hell are things so different now. And I don't think that's happening. I don't think that they have had that come to Jesus moment where they're saying, Brad, what the hell's going on with us? Why are we 500? We got two All-Stars this year, 3 in the last 2 years. We got this young buck upcoming and Robert Williams III. We got a great late round still in Peyton Pritchard who's balling. And I looked up and we're a 500 team. Come on, Graves.
Hey, but who put together that roster? So
Danny Ainge.
We just went over this.
Drapes. Keep it coming. Come on, keep it going.
He likes this.
Like Bill Parcells said, at least let me shop for the groceries. Well, the groceries that Danny Ainge isn't going to give you a full meal. You know, the problem with the Celtics, they got too many finishers and not enough facilitators.
Boom.
You know,
Boom.
Tatum's a finisher. Brown, even Kemba is a scoring point guard. It's not like he's a facilitator. So when you talk about trades, I know y'all mentioned Lonzo Ball has been mentioned out there.
That's not going to happen.
It ain't going to happen, but they need somebody like that.
Somebody like that
can impact the game without scoring. They don't have that right now.
Drapes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me ask you this question, okay? Why is Kemba on this roster to begin with?
Ooh. I can tell you. I can answer what Drake's answer.
Here, first of all.
No, but sure. But the real reason is
so mad about that.
The real reason it was a mad scramble because Kyrie Irving left, okay? Which was a guy that Danny provided for Brad, okay? And for whatever reason it didn't work, okay? What is the major reason that they're struggling right now? Gordon Hayward, who Danny got for this team, who was a talented player, didn't want to play out his contract. And you also had Al Horford leave, which we all discussed. So again, Danny, you might pin this specific roster with the players left in it on Danny Ainge and say this was an ill-fitting team, but how much of it was a mad scramble trying to make up for a bunch of unforeseen circumstances where players that you got and you brought in didn't even finish their contracts here? Exactly. And where does that problem lie? Where does that problem lie?
That's on Danny because he's chasing.
On Danny?
Yeah, he's chasing
fully
bad money with good money with bad. Like, don't double down and make more mistakes. John, the real
Who was against Kemba last year? Who was against the Kemba signing? Nobody. That's his revisionist. Yeah.
They got declining assets.
But everyone thought that was a great signing last year. That Danny did it and he pulled a rabbit out of the hat. Everyone thought it was a great signing last year. They did.
Because of who they lost, who he was placed.
But still, it was like, wow. And Kemba was the prize free agent of that class. And Danny snuck in and got him. And everybody was very for it at the time. And now it's easy to say this team looks like a mess because you're right. They're all give me the ball scorers.
Danny's not going to hire you as his assistant next week, big fella. Calm down. Here's the problem. You got 3 first-round draft picks that aren't doing anything for your roster right now. Neesmith, Grant Williams, Romeo Langford. You can't miss on so many draft picks. Even Rob Williams has been slow to develop. And so, sure, Danny's been able to get the stars, but he hasn't been able to fill out the roster.
He missed,
and that's the problem.
He's misfired on drafts for sure the last couple of years. Those 2 missed lottery picks, if you have a different player in there, it's a totally different team. Danny owns that one 100%. I'm not putting Rob's development. Why didn't Rob develop faster?
He wasn't ready.
He wasn't playing.
Come on, but that's one of the issues too when you team that now you don't have time to develop these young guys. First of all, you're trying to win ball games. But let's get back to Danny. Jeff Teague, good signing or not?
Jeff Teague is irrelevant.
At the time, it seemed like a decent signing.
He's irrelevant. That's your backup point guard.
He costs $2 million. If the success of your team hinges on your 10th player that you spent $2 million in the offseason, you're screwed.
Sherrod, tell him.
The big disappointment is Tristan Thompson.
Thompson is the miss.
Because here's the thing: you were able to mitigate the signing of Teague by the play of Pritchard. Pritchard has given you pretty much what you would have wanted to have gotten from Teague. So that you got lucky with that one. But Tristan Thompson, he's not helping you. He's a good offensive rebounder, and that's it.
And Drapes, you know they had high hopes on him. You know Danny was thinking he was going to come in and not be like an owl, but at least in the locker room, that kind of guy to get everyone refocused. The anchor on defense, he has not been that guy.
And people love that signing too.
Exactly, but it didn't pan out, John. Everybody loves it.
It's a miss. Danny deserves a huge piece of the blame pie as well. But you're not telling me that Brad's allowing this team to be the best version of itself right now. It's just not happening.
Nobody's saying that.
Make Miss
Is
Lee.
Brad any different than the guy that coached them to 3 out of 4 Eastern Conference Finals? Like, tell me Brad's shortcomings, please. I want to.
Let me ask you this: if you have a team that consistently starts poorly,
I was ready.
shows lack of effort and finishes horribly, where do you look at there? Okay, like again, these are problems of effort. The team does not come out early in games and play well, and has the worst fourth quarter execution in the league right now.
But just
remember,
years ago,
it's not even
they
close.
Were one of the best fourth quarter teams. Remember, just a few years ago, we were talking about the Celtics never say die attitude. We were talking about the Celtics saying they're never out of the games.
Because they used to buy into their coach, man. They used to buy into their coach.
Drapes, we're not saying one person is to blame. We're not saying one person is to blame. What we're saying is no one is above reproach here, okay? Brad is not bulletproof in this scenario at all.
Drapes, there's only 2 common threads from those teams that you talked about that were great fourth quarter executions and the team that we have now. And those 2 threads are called Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens. So if we're trying to figure out just how to distribute the blame, I think you need to start with those 2 because they are, again, does this mean that you get rid of Brad? No, I don't think you should do that because frankly, I don't think you can find somebody better than him, to be candid with you.
Right.
Does that mean that you got to get rid of Danny? Because as John pointed out, he has had some major hits since he's been there. But it's not about what you hit on previously. It's what are you hitting on right now? Are you positioning us to be great? And the point that you made, Drapes, that I thought was a good one, was how those first-round picks
Exactly.
I mean, you're getting nothing out of
good point, Drapes.
I know.
It only took him it only took 11 years for him to get that one good point.
Oh shit.
Broken clock right twice a day. It's all good though.
Oh man. Shots fired.
What you guys are failing to understand. Everybody's to blame. Tatum and Brown.
Yes.
We are whipping those guys.
You're late to this program. You spent a big chunk. No, you're right, Drapes. We agree.
Drapes,
Well, Drapes, I've been saying
real quick.
All-Star break.
You're going, Josue.
No, I'm just gonna say the same thing I've been saying since before All-Star break. Those 2, they need to have an uncomfortable conversation. I really believe that. I don't think their feelings about this team and about each other is out in the open. That's a big problem.
Drapes, you spent time covering these guys for years. What do you think? What do you see here looking at them? Honestly, like what? Just in terms of like, I hate playing the body language game and reading stuff like that. But you're looking at them as like something doesn't look right, right?
Yeah, I honestly, I was watching tonight's game, and Tatum is not happy. Something's going on with Tatum. Like he's just
That's
going.
what I came for, Drapes.
I don't know if it's COVID's related still or what. But something's going on with Jayson Tatum. I'm looking at the offense. I see him standing in the corner, watching with the ball. I'm watching Tice heave up a half quarter when you got Jayson Tatum calling for the ball right next to him.
A horrible half quarter.
Tatum pulled up for Tice pulled up for a step back 3.
Yeah.
Drapes.
I was like,
Drapes. The other great one was
done.
The other great one, Drapes, was the 3-on-1 where Grant had the ball and he gave it to Pritchard instead to the left instead of Tatum to the right, and Pritchard just gets swatted by a guy standing still, and Tatum just goes, his shoulders slump and he just turns and walks to the baseline. Like, come on, man,
But let me ask you guys, who's the facilitator on this team?
No one.
Whoever got the ball.
When Marcus feels like it, when Pritchard gets
Marcus
the ball.
it's Marcus and Rob, actually. It's true.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And so maybe it goes back to Brad, his system then. Because
are they even playing his system?
What system?
Yeah, seriously. What happened to Pace
What
and
is the
Space?
system?
What happened to Pace and Space? No?
No, it's they've been wanting to be the Golden State Warriors for so many years, but they don't have the Golden State Warriors talent. They want to play
Not
like
even
the Warriors.
close.
They don't have the talent like the Warriors do. That's it.
Right. And
What are they, 8th seed right now? Come on, man.
All alone in the 8th seed right now. They're tied in the loss column with the Bulls at 9.
Wow.
But y'all want to give up Harrison Barnes, right, Drapes?
Come on now.
Yeah, tell us what's the intel there. How much of that is just Celtics Reddit, Twitter wish list stuff, and how much of it is Sacramento actually interested in shopping him?
I said in my report that the Celtics.
I would say 10%. Like
10% from Sacramento's side.
Yeah, like it's all coming from Boston, dude.
No interest.
No, it's unless not for the package they're talking about. What are you offering up?
Nothing.
You know?
Neesmith and a pick.
So people here
Nothing,
in Boston think that a first-round pick in the 20s and Aaron Neesmith is a valuable package. We keep
That's
exactly
exactly what the Kings do when they got that letter.
I'm like,
doing.
I keep trying to tell them, like, if you're willing to give that up, that means nobody wants it. You know, like,
Right.
you know?
Well, it was a Sacramento reporter that came out with that like random nugget. I thought like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, really? That's if that's what they want, then like pack your bags, like get it done.
Yeah, sure. You know,
But it was pretty
take
funny that Neesmith was like the first guy off the bench tonight. Just so happened to be like,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
Exactly.
hey, like
Trust me.
check out Neesmith. You know, he's our first guy off the bench. We love him.
This happens all the time, right?
Can't
This really
trade.
happens.
He's
If
off.
you haven't noticed, we play him all
He's
the time.
off
He's
limits
so
for
good.
us. Don't even ask about him because he's very important to our team and our rotation.
Just look at the way Jaylen never looks at him when he's wide open. You
He
can tell.
refuses to look at him.
He's always the best version of himself when he gets on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
First one off
you
the
know,
bench.
what I really feel like about this Harrison Barnes stuff, this is the Celtics and Danny Ainge and everybody else trying to drum up this trade. I don't think Monty McNair, who's the Kings GM, is call Danny and say, hey, what do you want? You know, we'll give up Harrison Barnes. I don't think they have any intention of moving Harrison Barnes unless you like throw in this Godfather kind of offer where he just can't refuse. Harrison Barnes, we saw it tonight.
That ain't happening.
Harrison Barnes was awesome tonight. At 15 and 11, I think it was, or 15 and 13. He would fit in perfectly with Boston, but the Celtics don't have the pieces.
I mean, that's the thing is like the Celtics.
Exactly. Who are you trading? And again, Drapes, we've been saying this from the beginning of the year. If you're a Celtics fan, and this is the mentality of the Celtics fan, the second one of these players starts to play themselves into something where you now consider themselves valuable, aka Rob, then he's going to be untouchable. People are saying like, I wouldn't trade Rob for Vucevic. You know, like. That becomes the mentality. So now it's like it becomes one of these WEI caller trades where it's like give them Neesmith and Pritchard and Grant
Teague.
and 2 firsts. And like it's just the classic 5 nickels for $1 deal, you know, like and that's what everybody's trying to do right now to get a real impact player, which is I don't see possible.
But
Jimmy,
I'm
sorry.
The other thing is this for a guy like Barnes, no offense to Barnes, but he's not a Godfather offer type player. No chance. I mean, the Celtics would be stupid to include Rob in a deal for Barnes because Barnes isn't going to make them good enough to win a title. So really, you're not going to give away anybody that you are hoping that helps you get there.
But there has to be some benefit for Sacramento, right?
Oh, no, I totally get that. I mean, the benefit would be in picks, and if you had
this isn't a charity,
wasn't ready to win.
They got to get something out of it.
That's how trades work, right?
Well, like
that's
honestly,
how they work.
It would be like it would be Romeo. If Romeo played, if this would be Romeo's second year and he was a solid player, that would probably be the guy you'd trade. But the guy's played 4 games, and I'm not even sure he exists anymore. All we just keep hearing about is like the ghost of Romeo. So I mean, again, they don't have the tradable assets. That's what we keep going back to. They just don't.
I know. I agree. And here's the thing. What move, if you're the Celtics, actually makes you a real championship contender, right? Like Jimmy said, Harrison Barnes, great player. I love Harrison Barnes, but does he put you over the top? And so Danny's in a tough spot. And hindsight's 2020, but when he had all those picks, should have packaged it and got somebody. Filled out
Move it up. Yeah. Move up. Consolidate.
Exactly.
Get your Halliburton, get your hero, get one of these guys. That's the most perplexing thing. I have to think it wasn't on the table the same way it wasn't when they tried to trade up for Winslow.
Yeah.
They tried to roll 4 picks to move up 3 spots and couldn't do it, So teams are smart. They know that like there's 14, 27, and 30 is like trading 14. It's like 27 and 30. The reality is those players don't make it past their first contracts, really.
You'd be lucky. Yeah.
You get more washouts than you get rotation players at that point. They're really lottery tickets. They don't hit. So it's hard to move up.
Maybe someone's get hit with Aaron Gordon. How much is that going to cost them, right? Well, I mean, what is it? A young player and a first-round pick was the initial.
But it's
report?
a young player, a young established player, and again,
they don't have
that.
Right.
They don't have
Romeo
that.
Langford does not qualify, Josue.
He didn't say established. He said young player.
Grant Williams does not apply, Josue.
He almost hit the ceiling, but he's got a ceiling.
That was the other thing we talked about, John, is that it's kind of on Brad to play some of these younger guys if he can, like Neesmith, like Pritchard, all season.
Makes no sense.
Instead of playing Semi or Teague or Javonte Green, why doesn't Neesmith get more time?
Well, he did it tonight.
I know he did it.
He got that work
to an extent. He ended up playing 13 minutes.
Well, all he did was play Grant because he needed a third big with Tristan out with COVID. But he had Neesmith as the first guy off the bench, but
it's too late now.
Semi was a DNP and Teague sat the whole time.
Let me chime in. Brad is watching these dudes every day when they practice. If Neesmith is getting his ass kicked in practice, what does it look like come game time if Brad says, you know what, I'm going to still play him?
They don't practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But think about it, though.
No, I agree. I know. There's a reason he's not playing.
It's not about what you see on the floor. It's what's going on behind the scenes, too.
Maybe, but ultimately,
right?
look, it's just greater value, Drapes, to you, both in terms of the ceiling, okay? You know exactly what you're going to get with your Semi Ojeleye minutes, okay? If you want to get to another level, you have to see whether the kids that you drafted as lottery picks can actually do anything. So you force the issue, live with some mistakes, because what's worse? They're 20 and 21 right now. How much worse would they be if they'd forced those minutes? The second thing is you might play those guys into actually being assets and then actually having value. And right now you don't. You have no assets of value because you haven't shown.
That's not how it works in the NBA, guys. Name me one contending team that is sitting.
But they're not. They're not a contending team.
But they thought they were earlier. So now
but they're not. And the guys you're playing are not discernibly better. It's not like you're sitting a veteran. You're not sitting a Harrison Barnes type figure to give minutes to Aaron Neesmith. You're sitting Semi Ojeleye, who is. You're sitting Semi Ojeleye, who is an 8-9. On a contending team, Semi Ojeleye doesn't see the floor. On a contending team, Semi Ojeleye does not see the floor.
So let me ask.
Who cares if he plays for this team?
Are we really saying that we know talent better than Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge? And if you're Danny Ainge, all you got to do is tell Brad, hey, let's see what Neesmith can do.
I think he did today. When he told him, when Brad said, I'm thinking of going to Indiana, and Danny said, why don't you stick around and play these guys? And I promise not to fire you. And he's like, okay, cool.
Hey,
fair compromise. That's a fair compromise, he said.
Listen, I think
that's the compromise.
Okay.
I won't fire you, so don't go to Indiana, but play freaking Neesmith, would you? And he did.
I think
and then he went. They call it mass holes, right?
And
mass
how
it was
work out?
James, I think there's I think there's a
non-factor.
I think there's a happy medium where Neesmith doesn't have to play 30 minutes a game, but he's going multiple games in a row, DNP-CD, 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 3 minutes of garbage time. Like there's got to be a point where you got to just let him play because like we said, they're not practicing that much. They don't have a lot of time to, get their feet wet or get, comfortable. You just got to throw him into the swimming pool and hopefully he can swim.
We've seen Brad do that with young players before. He let Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, you name it. They've gotten minutes early in their careers, And Jaylen, I know it took him a year, but it's not like if Neesmith showed something, look at Peyton Pritchard. He's in the rotation. He's playing.
And they damn sure did not expect to play him.
Exactly.
He's
no
playing
intentions
less.
of playing him.
Yep.
Brad keeps falling into comfort zone sort of things. And it's understandable because you're trying to win games now and you know what you're going to get out of certain guys. And it's easy. It's a crutch. But again, this is the same sort of thing we've talked about where it forces you play Tristan Thompson more than you play Rob Williams, even though everybody with their eyes can see Williams is giving you more impactful minutes. But I don't know. I trust Tristan. I trust Semi. I trust it. And so you lean on these crutches a little bit, and it does stunt the development. And we're not saying Nesmith has done anything to earn his minutes in a game or in practice. I'm simply saying he's the play. You drafted him as a lottery pick for a specific reason, which is to create spacing on a team that desperately needs it. And if you're going to unlock the potential of some of the other players on this team, you have to see whether it works or not. And so you got to kind of shove it in there and try to make it work as best you can. And he did for a little period of time where he played him in a stretch for 4 or 5 games, and Smith did not make the most of his minutes. And then he yanked him completely again. And that seesaw is hard for him because he's like, I did bad. And he goes to 0 minutes for 5-6 straight games again. And that messes with a kid,
So my only thing is this: if we're talking about tradable assets, had Nesmith played, maybe there's a chance he plays well enough where he becomes a tradable asset to a point. If he doesn't, then he's worth just as much as he is now. Then he's worth just as much as he is now by not playing. So really, there's no risk to playing him. You're not winning anyways, and you have a chance to bring in a player that can help you.
When you're talking about putting together a deal to help your team, you are talking about putting together what is essentially a main course meal. Nesmith is like the damn salt that you put on the appetizer. He's not. He is
now.
He will make the meal's going to be better if you put him in that deal, but you need something bigger than that.
Totally now. Yeah, absolutely.
Even if he's playing, he'd still be a sweetener because he doesn't make enough money to move the needle.
Does anyone eat Korean food?
Sometimes.
Okay, you know the stuff they give you at the beginning of the meal? It's called banchan.
Yeah.
That's what all the Celtics have. It's like a little bowl of small pickled vegetables. Like that's what these guys are. It's banchan. It's not the meal.
They're trying to get the dunk.
He said he's not even a side. He called them the salt.
He doesn't play now.
Grant Williams, though? Hasn't Grant Williams last year was in the rotation? So don't act like Brad doesn't play rookies or doesn't play young players.
He plays guys who play well. He plays guys who play well.
He does.
Then Nesmith should be out of the league, apparently.
Drapes, you're right. He does. It's not an indictment on how he's done it in the past. What you're looking at is a situation where just F it. Like, it's not, the other thing isn't working. So see if the thing that you got, these shiny new toys that you have, you bring them out and play with them a little bit. That's all. Try to work it in for the obvious reasons that if Nesmith is anything close to the player you thought when you drafted him, he could theoretically help this team at the end of the year when it really is going to count. You don't give him any ramp up and any runway, and you just keep. Like I said, look what happened last year in the playoffs with Romeo and Rob. They played a little bit late in the bubble, and then it got to the playoffs, and it was like, I just don't know if I trust him. You just didn't get – and there'd be entire games where Rob wouldn't play at all, entire series he wouldn't play. Romeo a little, and then he hurt his wrist. You couldn't trust them when you got there. I think you have to work up to that point to see if you've got anything in them. Otherwise, what you know is you're one and done playing Semi Ojeleye and Grant Williams and Jeff Teague significant minutes in your rotation because you know it's not good enough. When you know one thing isn't good enough, try something else. That's all.
That's hindsight, and we may see that going forward.
We hope so. Yeah,
you may see that going forward.
Nesmith got some minutes tonight. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt. So we've been on a bit. I'll go for closing thoughts. We're thrilled to have Draper, so we extended way beyond what we would have, and we've had a lot of people hang around with us. But Drapes, say something that's going to make people feel better here about the Celtics.
He about to show us a good view or something. You better flip the camera around.
I don't have anything for you, man. I don't have anything.
Oh, no.
I don't have anything,
He's just here to clown us.
Because
something.
No matter what they do, John, no matter what they do, you still got Brooklyn. You still got Philly. You still got Milwaukee. So only thing I can say for Celtics fans is you may be the 5 seed. You may get the 6 seed, but ain't nobody beating Brooklyn. So and that's I said at the beginning of the season this was the Celtics window. It may have closed already. which is sad.
Damn, Drake.
That's not
This
something
part-
nice, Drapes.
I know. But
We said be nice.
look at Brooklyn, dude? They got 3 Hall of Famers.
You're right. I've been saying the same thing. Why
I
don't
don't
we
know,
make these
man.
little trades?
I don't know. I mean, a 5th seed, that's pretty nice, Sean. Considering everything, that we just talked about, that's a pretty nice thing to say about the Celtics, that they might
Drapes
be a
got
fifth.
out. Drapes got out just in time.
Here's the
That's as
thing.
good as
Yeah,
it gets.
he saw-
Yeah, for
he
real.
saw the writing on the
He
wall.
saw the writing on the wall.
He saw
Hashtag
this.
Drapes new. Hashtag Drapes new.
Hashtag Drapes new.
Listen to y'all.
Both teams
Drapes.
play hard, Drapes. Both teams play hard.
Hey,
You like in
my squad
Sacramento,
not
man?
doing well either, so.
You like it out there in Cali, bro?
Yeah, hey man, I'm in San Francisco chilling. I got the Giants ballpark right across the street, man.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were about to show. You were about to show something. It looked like.
No, I got the Giants ballpark. Life is good, man. Life is good.
But you
That's
miss
a fun
us, right?
team to watch, though. I know the record's not great, but that's a fun team to watch. The Kings.
No, they are fun to watch, and of course I miss it, man. You
You
know,
miss-
like 11 years in Boston, and John, you know this for a fact. A Philly guy coming to Boston.
Oh man.
Yeah.
The greatest. Drapes
amazing
used to
you
go
made it
around
out
the
alive.
newsroom and tell us, he's like, you guys cannot let people know I'm a Sixers fan because I will never. I cannot.
And that was like the first thing I told everybody. Like, y'all know he's a Philly fan, right? Y'all know he like the Sixers, right?
He's like, seriously, guys, you can't say that shit on the air. You know,
I don't think I ever said that. I don't think I ever said that. I grew up a Lakers fan.
Yeah, I believe John. I believe him.
Yeah, we had a lot of Sixers fans in the newsroom. You, Max, Robbie Buckets. I mean,
Robbie
it
Buckets.
It was ugly
Yeah.
in there. It was ugly in there.
No, actually, it was
the
quite
process.
lovely
We had
during
the
the process.
No, no.
True.
It was quite lovely.
Through the process. Yeah, it was angry. It was
The
angry.
entire process was in our
And
newsroom.
14, 15 must have been interesting when the process started.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh.
man,
Look-
oh, man.
Those were good times. Guys, quick whip around. Final thoughts. We kind of beat it to death here, but anything you got, Jimmy?
Man, it goes back to what I've been saying. You know, this team is just one of those teams that they just continue to underwhelm, continue to disappoint. I feel bad saying it, but I mean, what I said earlier this week was they're gonna beat the bad teams and lose to the good teams. That was after they lost.
Nope. They're going to lose to them all.
I was wrong. They're just gonna lose. It doesn't matter who it is anymore. It's just like we don't really care who it is. We'll just lose. So
No.
that's where I'm at. I mean, and I'm with Drapes. I don't really think there's a trade, and I think honestly, I think Danny's pretty much said it. Like, there's not really a trade out there that makes sense for them to do because they don't think they're good enough to go where they want to go. So why give up the assets at this stage at the trade deadline when you can hold on to them and try to do something bigger and better in the offseason? That's where I think they're at, honestly.
Yeah. Josue and the Garden Rats, what do you got?
Man, off season already. I mean, they're not that far, but I'll say this much. I'm going to predict a completely different approach from Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I'm going to go on a limb and say they combine for 16, 17 assists, something like that. Maybe you see more open looks. Maybe you see something not record
For the rest
shattering,
of this
but
month?
something similar. No. Next game.
For the season?
Oh,
No, Sunday.
they're not good at these Sunday
Oh, you're
matinee
drinking that
games.
Kool-Aid. Okay.
They've
not
been
good in
bad.
the Sunday. They're not good in the Sunday matinees.
They're bad
but-
at these.
I mean, listen, they gotta do something here. And that game, that one weekend game that stood out the most, when Peyton Pritchard and Shemi Ojale broke records, I haven't seen them pass the basketball like that since. So I'm gonna predict they try to go back to that. I don't think a record's gonna be shattered, but I think that approach opened up a lot of open looks for guys like Pritchard. Pritchard's got to get more open looks too. Listen, we gotta start something gotta start setting up the Pritchards of the world. You know, the guy. I'm not saying dust off Carson Edwards real quick, but I'm saying
Don't
There it
even
is.
start.
There
Brown
it is.
are gonna drastically change their approach. That's my prediction for the next game.
All
Did
right,
Bobby hack
Sherrod.
your brain? I think Bobby just hacked his brain for that last.
Oh
final
my
word.
God.
That was such a Bobby take right there.
Yeah, that was,
What do you mean? No, Bobby would have been talking about a big trade. Freaking maybe Jaylen and Smart are out of here. The team's blowing up. That's what
I don't know.
Bobby would say.
Look, I just want them to play harder. I'm at that point now. I don't even care about wins and losses with this team anymore. I want to get back to the days when, regardless of what the outcome is, I knew they were going to play hard. When we get to that point, results don't matter because this team, the only way they can, frankly, redeem this season is getting past Brooklyn and getting to the NBA Finals, which I don't think they'll do. But they can't start playing harder. And for me, it's that cookies on the bottom shelf since we got Draper, that's my goal. The cookies on the bottom shelf way of handling this going forward is playing harder. That's simple. It's that easy to do. Just do it. That's all I want.
So for me, I'm so damaged after having watched this team play this way for the course of 41 games. I don't know.
That means you're not going to be the best version of yourself, John. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know how many games it's going to take for me to trust again. You know, like because this yo-yo
They lost your
has
trust.
been. I mean, you're talking. It's a team that started 8-3. So do the math. They're 8 games under 500. Okay, for the last 30 games. That's horrible. Okay, so not only are we doing the one-on, one-off, where like, oh, I think they got it. It's basically like they're almost dropping 2 out of 3 here. It's really grisly and it's deflating. So they need to string it together. They need a complete makeover or something. So again, why I keep going back to Brad Drapes is not to blame. It's you've got to get out of your comfort zone and shock the system somehow. Do something because the thing that's happening now isn't working. I just don't know what that something is. That's what they get paid to do. Hashtag start Rob. Okay. But whatever. Do something else to shake it up, move it around, make a drastic move Kemba to the bench if you think that. I'm not saying that's the right play. Just try something because right now, this isn't working. It's not working right now. And we've seen enough of it to know it's like we said, the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting it to work. It's just not working. So get out of your comfort zone. Everybody try something different, do something different. I don't know, but we don't have the answers. You just want to see something. You know, Drapes wants effort. I want to see him shake it up.
There it is.
Drapes, make us feel better. Last chance.
Give Brad and Danny, and I wrote this on Twitter like 3 weeks ago. Give them a chance to correct things. You can't fire Brad Stevens after 3 out of 4 trips to the Eastern Conference Finals. Can you question him? No doubt about it. Can you criticize him? But he deserves the chance to fix this. Let's see how the rest of this season plays out. And you just never know, man. Like, on paper, those top 3 guys, throw Marcus Smart in there, top 4, they should be able to challenge anybody. We'll see, man.
Top 3 includes Rob, right?
Nope.
It will. Give it a little time. Next season.
Hey,
John,
Rob Williams is
John with the classics.
He's the backup quarterback, you know?
Top 3 untouchable players on the roster right now.
You mean like
Tatum,
Tom Brady was a backup quarterback? Backup quarterback? Is that what you meant?
There you go,
Like Matt
Sherrod.
Castle was.
Matt did pretty. Matt did all right.
They did get a second for Matt Castle, but that's all right. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. It really was an amazing treat. Drapes, I'll give you a chance to anything else got going on a personal level you want to promote, a book, anything, your Twitter, a special thing that's going on with you, your career, your life.
Yeah, what do you got?
You want to tell the folks at home who miss you?
Oh, you had a big smirk like you had some.
I always got something going on. Kyle Draper TV, working on some things behind the scenes. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it comes out here in the next couple of weeks. But hit me up, man. Still, y'all still Drapes guys, man. No matter what. You're always
Hey Drapes, they're opening up the venues here soon, man. Maybe we'll bump into you at another Wu-Tang concert or something.
Yeah. And Sherrod, I'll ask you quick. Anything coming for BSJ this weekend?
BSJ. No, we'll look at just the last week that was, and goodness. I'm not looking forward to just kind of breaking down the week that was because it sucked. It really did. It really did.
Sherrod's vicious with it too. He'll bury this team in a week. He don't need that much time.
I want to say.
I will. You know I will.
I want to say one thing to Drapes. Since you left, I think Scout thinks he runs the show now over at CSN, dude. I think he needs you to knock some sense back into him a little bit.
You know what? Y'all realizing I was the whole thing that held it together.
That's right.
The whole thing.
We're back.
I was the point guard.
We're back to
Jerry, now you got Drapes in bobblehead mode where he's just like, I was the point guard.
I'm getting him
I
going.
ran the
dude.
show.
I'm getting him going. That's right.
We're back to bully ball tactics with Drapes now. We need somebody who can check him. Okay,
that's it.
With Scal. But on a personal level, super treat to have Drapes and Sherrod together again. Obviously, these guys were the backbone of NBC Boston's Celtics coverage for so many years. So super fun to have you guys on. on the show tonight. So thanks both for hanging.
All right, fellas.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Peace.